Right, so it is the part B, which is asking that discuss whether class A and B shares should be classified either equity or liability in accordance with IAS 32 financial instruments presentations, 5 marks. And let us look at for which it is okay. Second exhibit is relevant to this part. We do not need to look at any other part. So let us move to the second exhibit. Here it is, Class A and Class B shares Exhibit 2. Bismuth Company has issued two class of shares, Class A and Class B, in exchange for a cryptocurrency Bitcoin. Both types of shares permit the holder to vote and give an entitlement to rewards. Bismuth Company has discretion over whether rewards are payable on Class A and Class B shares. Bitcoin can be readily converted into Bismuth company jurisdictions. Right. Further, what it's saying. Okay, it's saying the Class A shares are redeemable at par in the event of Bismuth company obtaining a listing on a formal stock exchange, which is highly probable. Uh, on listing, Bismuth company has a choice as to method of redemption, either cash to value of 1 Bitcoin per 100 Class A shares or shares to the value of 2 Bitcoins per 100,000 Class A shares. Bitcoin equates to approximately $12,000. Okay. The shares settlement option to above would involve exchanging Class A shares for the equivalent number of shares Class B shares. Class B shares have never been fluctuated in value. Bismuth company is not compelled to redeem the Class B shares, but these shares do contain an option allowing Bismuth company to repurchase them. However, it within 2 years, Bismuth company fails to exercise its call option on the Class B shares, it must pay an additional reward to the holders of Class B shares. Well, not a very difficult part, although those who has watched my video on my YouTube channel regarding the cryptocurrency framework and all, to those students, this was very easy questions in the exam. Uh, they can be uh, they they can do well in this question. They may do it. And now, B part, let us discuss. I already taught this topic in my sessions, compared to past sessions and to my students who studied from me. To those students, they didn't find this question difficult at all because I already covered this cryptocurrency topic, and mostly others was didn't teach that. Anyways, we thought uh, we will discuss regarding it. Firstly, IAS 32, IAS 32, financial instruments. This is like, right, so it's saying IAS 32, financial instruments is less than the carrying amount, and hence there there is an impairment charge on financial instruments. It's that a financial instrument is a financial liability if it provides that on settlement the entity will deliver either number one, cash or another financial asset, or its own shares, value is determined to exceed substantially the value of the cash or other financial asset.
Mhm.
Right. So far, what we have done till here, we describe what is the financial liability, and now what we will do, we will connect it with the scenario. The Smith company has discretion
Mhm.
over whether rewards are payable class A shares and class B shares. The rewards are essentially a dividend paid on the investment. This would seem to indicate seem to indicate that both instruments would be classified as equity. The Bitcoin So what I said so far, I just give you the intro of IS
Mm.
32, and then
Mhm.
we have started connecting with the scenario that this company, this Smooth company has discretion over whether rewards are payable on Class A shares and Class B shares, and the rewards are essentially dividend paid on investment. So it would indicate that it should classify as equity, but that's not enough. We will discuss further, and what we'll say, the Bitcoin can be readily converted into cash in Bismuth company jurisdiction. Therefore, therefore can be treated in same way as legal tender of cash. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Further, what we'll say, the possibility of Bismuth company listing on stock exchange is contingent settlement provision. Bismuth company is able to avoid listing shares on a stock exchange if it so chooses. If it so chooses, but is unlikely to do so. Hence the listing deemed to be highly probable. Now, highly probable. So, in this case, does the class A shares will be classified as liability because the value of the share settlement of 1000 shares, 1000 class A at 2 Bitcoin substantially exceeds that of the cash settlement option of 1 Bitcoin for the same number of instruments, and Bismuth company is implicitly obliged to redeem the instruments for a cash amount of 1 Bitcoin. So then simply in the beginning, we just gave the introduction of financial instrument, financial liability. In the beginning, it was seems to be as equity, but then as we seen that it can be readily converted into the cash and the possibility then simply from the start till now what happening, the scenario is just leading us first the introduction, secondly as you can see over here, uh, it can be readily converted into cash, we get another mark, then we discuss about the stock market listing, simply scenario leaders, okay, and then it's totally our basic knowledge of the bitcoins and the knowledge of the standard which we connecting to the scenario, quite simply it's is 32 that how we can account it for,
Mhm.
and it will rest it will again happening. Let us look at the further part what it's saying. Yeah, again till the next part, if this Bismuth company fails to exercise the its call option on the class B shares, it must transfer an additional reward sorry additional reward to the holder, again connected to the scenario, and obligation must be established to the terms and conditions of the financial instrument. Anything outside the contractual terms is not relevant to the classification. Is not relevant to the classification process according to IS 32. Therefore, the uh, potential failure to exercise the call option does not affect the classification of class B shares as equity, as there is no unavoidable avoidable unavoidable contractual obligations pay the reward or to call the instrument. Further, in the end, what we'll say, if in the end, we'll say if the call option is not exercised, the reward payable will only constitute an increase in the dividend rate and not a redemption of the class B shares. Hence, the class B shares constitute equity shares. That's it. Uh, as you can see, in the end, we just discussed the last part about the failure of calling the call options, and so what we said, if Bismuth company fails to exercise class option on the class B shares, it must transfer additional reward to the holder because there is an obligation. Obligation must be established through the terms and conditions of the financial instruments, and on anything outside the contractual terms, it's not relevant as per the IS 32. However, therefore, potential failure to exercise call options does not affect the classification of Class B shares as equity because there is no unavoidable contractual obligation to pay the rewards or to call the instrument. And lastly, if the call option is not exercised, the reward payable will only constitute an increase in dividend rate, not a redemption of the Class B shares. So, Class B shares will constitute as an equity shares. That's it, and I hope you get it.
Yes, sir. How? Okay.
I have done anything else. Just as you can see, even in the scenario, I have only connected the I have connected my knowledge to the scenario, nothing outside of it. Just let my scenario lead me. That's it.
Hmm.
I hope you
That's
get
good.
it.